Uh, I will take any motions to start the meeting. Any seconds? All those in favor of starting the 12th meeting of the Senate, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? The meeting has begun. We are going to begin with a call to order, starting with Senior Class President Wu.
Yeah.
Roll call. Senator Fadlala, Senator Rodriguez, Senator Ding, Senator Liu, Senator Zhu, President McGuinness, Senator Parrish, Senator Chen, Senator Cruz Moreno, Senator Huang, Senator Lenny, Senator Donald, President Cho, Senator Loza Cervantes, Senator Benjamin, Senator Dobbs, Senator Gupta, Senator Morris, Senator Naqvi, President Meng, Senator Fedotova, Senator Amy Lee, Senator Abiodun, Senator Dubé, Senator Sean Lee, Senator Tiagi. With that, we are going to move on to convening business, of which we have none. So we are beginning with the amendment and approval of the agenda. Oh. Huh? While Elena comes down, I will accept any motions for the amendment and approval of the agenda. Any seconds? All those in favor of approving this agenda, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? With that, our agenda is approved. Public input. Ms. Leiter, do you have any input? With no public input, we are going to begin with the reports, beginning with Student Body President Solitelli.
You can get a lot of children. So that went really well. I'm looking for, by tonight, I'm going to nominate 2 people for the Provost Advisory Something Health Pathway. It's a committee that deals with health and you get direct input from the Provost. So I would like to take someone from the Health, Safety, and Sustainability Committee, and then possibly one more person who isn't. If you are interested, talk to me after GBM. Otherwise, I'm going to pick whoever I think would be best, whether or not you want it. Beyond that, I have a makeup exec meeting with Calvin at 9 a.m. tomorrow, so I will be going to that and doing that. I had something else that occurred that I'll have the event report for the haunted house in by Thursday, and I'm considering helping somebody write the resolution, read the anti-Semitic stuff that has been going on recently in the news. University of Florida just released a very well-written one because at their football game, they projected Kanye was right about the Jews across the stadium, which is not a good thing. If things escalate in general society, we'll probably think about writing a resolution on that, specifically if something happens on campus. Otherwise, that's good. As you guys know, VP Bard is going to be here today. Everyone should have already read through the statistics that we sent out, in addition to having the open day for general reference. And you guys were all here when I talked about general forum for talking with administration. So let me know if you guys have any issues, and my one-on-ones will be getting an email after GBM today. I did Stone, Ryan, Arceli, a couple of people. So we'll schedule those in the next week.
Okay, then it is with me for my reports. With our meeting today with Vice President Bard, I looked through and summarized and categorized all of those comments we received. So hopefully, and I'm sure you all read through them, so that's going to be really great. We talked with Calvin about how we can improve SG as a whole, and we really want to emphasize our constituent services from now on, making sure that we are available to students to listen to and support them. We are also going to work on having a workshop and PowerPoint presentation for legislation writing, so that everybody knows how to write legislation, so we can have more of that's happening. We also want to start limiting our closed sessions to make sure that we are there and available for the public. And I believe that is the majority of mine. And we'll pass it over to Secretary Regier. We can circle back to you later. Treasurer Nicholson.
Meeting right now, especially with a lot of questions surrounding their funds and met this. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And do we have any updates for social affairs? Any updates for social affairs? Okay. Class council reports. Senior President Wu.
Senior like people, and then we're currently looking at vendors, if not the was up to visitor and the event, but that's upcoming and on its way.
Junior Class President McGinnis.
No, I'm on early December, well, we're bringing it's been you can request and our gang meetings and just making sure that these like the caterers and drinks and whatnot are all set and ready to go. We also have, optimistic, gleeful eyes forward to sort of talk about our spring significant event. And now that we have a full roster of involvement out there, those are our primary projects. Yeah.
Sophomore Class President Cho. Okay. Freshman Class President Mom. Academic Affairs. Um, would anybody like to speak on behalf of Academic Affairs? Anybody in Academic Affairs?
You don't have to have special permission. If you were in academic affairs and in the meeting, you can say so.
I'm going to look and see who's on Academic Affairs and call the first person. Senator Amy Lee.
And not really with mom. Also, met with the vice president about involving resolution, writing that leave adult is acceptable for actually the design word. The week after the Monday, Tuesday after will already the ending period. So we will keep these details in mind as we construct another resolution.
Civic Engagement.
this should determine where.
Health, safety, and sustainability. Internal affairs.
We have Ryan, and
Student organizations.
I don't think we.
Student services. We're going to quickly go through caucuses. Peter Caucus, we're working with finance to have a Q&A meeting. Black Caucus. Disability Caucus.
Disability services and accessibility.
Fly Caucus. Hispanic Latinx. WGMC. Advisors.
I have 6 positions posted currently. So we got a lot of the positions posted that said we're open. And we are actively engaging in those searches now. So progress is on the way.
Okay, with that, that is the end of our reports, which brings us to the main event of our GBM, our public safety presentation with Vice President Bard at the invitation of President Wu. President Wu has a presentation for us to begin with.
This.
Yeah.
Three.
So that's on. We can work on screen.
Well, lovely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jiwon. I am the senior president of the 110 Student Government Association. I'm also the committee chair for general affairs. I'd like to thank VP Bar and staff members for accepting our invitation and being here to communicate on behalf of the university. Just to make sure everyone here good, everything sounds great. Well, little background. We launched this survey about, we've been planning this for about a month ago to understand students' opinion and their concern regarding GHPD and the public safety. And this survey was drafted targeting primarily for Homewood students, including the Homewood and Peabody dual degree students. The survey included 7 questions, 1 through 5 in a scale of 1 to 5 questions, and 7 to 8 leaving an open-ended feedback question. So if you look at the overview, I'm not sure this is the overview of our survey result. We're going to go through one by one. But first question that was asked was whether you're a Homewood student or Peabody dual degree program. I think only outside of majority of them are almost excluded. The second question was the gist of the question is that if you will whether support HPD implementation or not. it was on a scale of second question was, do you feel informed about the implementation of JHPD? A scale from not informed, poorly informed, neutral, informed to completely informed. The second question was whether you support the implementation of JHPD, and for similar matters, it ranged from completely do not support, neutral, support, and completely support. The fourth question was on safety on campus on JH property, such as the library, any on campus property, or the dorms. It ranged from very unsafe, neutral, safe to very safe. And the next question followed was safety regarding off campus but near campus locations such as Charles Village neighborhood, St. Paul Street, and the selections were the same. So the result of the first question was that it was distributed normally. Given that about 8% of the student population felt completely informed, 33% felt informed, while 24% felt neutral, and 27% felt poorly informed, and 8% felt not informed at all. Wait. And I forgot to make a note. This this survey we received total of 823 survey results. So just keep that in mind. It is a statistically not as many as we hoped, but it is enough to give you guys a presentation. Yeah. And the main hot topic of this presentation is whether you support JHPD or not. It was rather polarizing result. It ranged completely from the second and the first most popular opinion going on to the extreme of the answer choices. 22% of the student population completely supported the implementation of JHPD, 17% support, 13% neutral, 18% do not support, and 29% completely do not support. And the next question on safety regarding on campus, it was overwhelmingly felt safe. Given 29% of the student population of the survey felt very safe, 45 felt safe, 16 felt neutral, 8% felt unsafe, and 3% felt very unsafe. The next question was regarding a safety off campus, but near campus. You did off but near. Off but near, so around Charles Village on the campus, on campus. The exact wording of the survey, I think I sent you an email, but maybe I could also find that there. People felt 6% of the people felt very safe off campus. 27% felt safe. 26% felt neutral. 27% felt unsafe, and 14% felt very unsafe. This is comparison to the 2018 referendum that was conducted by the Student Government Associate at that time. They received 2,070 votes, while we received 826. That is about half to a third to one. The results were pretty different. At 2018, the anti-JHPD position was about 74.4%, while for 2022, our survey concluded 48. This includes completely do not support and do not support. For pro-JHPD, at 2018, it was about 25.6%, but this year it was 39%. That includes completely support and support as well. 2018 survey did not include a neutral position. We included on our survey, which was about 13%. We did some more analysis based on people's results and gated on whether how their opinions on how their answer choice differs by their choice on JHPD support. As you can see on the left, can you go down a little bit so you can see the, oh, yep. So left, you can see that it is a result of a safety off campus. That's the how people felt if you support the implementation of JHPD. On the right, that's how people felt on safety. That should be that's also on campus safety on campus gated on the support of JHPD. And and on the bottom, you can see the complete survey data, including the all 826, and you can kind of see how it deviates from the average data. And this is extreme in the off-campus gated on support, so that people who support JHPD compared to about people who felt unsafe was about 30 or 41%, but for people who support JHPD, they felt unsafe about 72% of the time. And for the on-campus as well, on-campus as well, where the unsafe on the on-campus was about 11% total. But for people who support JHPD, they felt unsafe. People who responded unsafe and very unsafe on campus was about 26%. Here we can both see that people who are in support of JHPD felt more unsafe on both on campus and on campus.
Does everybody understand the term like gated on support?
We conducted the same analysis on the gated on not support, which is not for the implementation of JHPD. As you can see here as well, the people who do not support JHPD felt much safer on both off-campus and on-campus survey results. Especially for the safety on campus, only less than 2% of the people felt unsafe on campus, while for off campus, only 14% felt unsafe, compared to 41 of the average results. And we conduct a similar approach to neutral, and you can kind of see that even for neutral as well, the data skews to the unsafe and very unsafe for the off-campus areas, and it stayed relatively the same for the on-campus. So this is a trend on the question for on-campus safety, and to your left, it was gated on support. Next, it was gated on neutral. It was gated on support, and you can clearly see the trend of people feeling more safe, or I guess less safe, as you go on the realm of supporting JHPD. And similar approach was taken for the off-campus survey, where on the bottom you can see the average overall results, and to your left you can see that for the supporting implementation of JHPD, and to your right, to the not support, you can see that the proportions of feeling unsafe and very unsafe reduces as you go towards the gated not support. And this was done the other way around. So this was gated on, this is looking for, this is try to see, this pie shows if you whether support or not support JHPD based on your survey results on off-campus safety. And you can see that it also showed a similar data where if you feel unsafe, you're more likely to be pro JHPD, while if you feel safe, you like to be more anti JHPD. This is a trend on if you feel informed, including for MOU and other implementation plans of JHPD. And both on support and not support follows relatively the same proportion and distribution of the average. However, most of the people who selected neutral on supporting JHPD, they felt that they were not informed or poorly informed about 70% of the response.
so that we can kind of see that people who selected neutral, they did not have a good understanding of the implementation of JHP. Outside of those questions, we had a one question six, which is how can the public safety around Johns Hopkins be improved? Kobe actually did an excellent work on sorting all the data that we should receive, and you will get a complete copy of both our survey results and the feedbacks for your internal usage. Um, these are the popular out of I don't know how many we received out of like 300 responses we received. These are the most popular and I guess most problematic area of the Hopkins campus safety. The first is that students seeking better transportation system. They're usually linked to our Blue Jay shuttle system, and then their complaining is that the wait time for the shuttle is way too long, which I believe all the Senates can agree on as actual users of the shuttle. I personally use Blue Jay shuttle, but it takes a while, and then it may deter the students to rather walk than use the Blue Jay shuttle. And I think the that needs to be addressed. I think, yeah. I think your office sent out a email regarding recent events or incidents around campus that you guys gotta improve the transportation system. But I think the students are seeking more robust and faster response time for the transportation system. The next, I think this was the most popular opinion on how we can improve public safety is by increasing the presence of existing Hopkins security and increasing training on Hopkins security. This includes the hop cops and the yellow safety allied people. As the winter time comes around, I think the popular consensus of our school is that one, they are sometimes not to be found during cold times. They're usually in Unimini or subway or in their cars, and they're not really out there for the safety. And also, I we received couple complaints that those safety personnel were catcalling Hopkins students on the streets, which is pretty disturbing. Call. Yes. So improve on the training and the presence of Hopkins security seems pretty crucial. Even with or without the JHPD, I think understanding what's going around the existing Hopkins security and see what the general complaints were. And also, this was a while back, but someone called Hapsong got lost and around taking a walk or going for a run around Hopkins neighborhood, the wrong turn, and then they called a Hopkins security asking them to pick them up. And Hopkins security said we cannot like confirm that you're a Hopkins student. So they hung up and never picked her up. So these little horror stories or a disturbing stories of Hopkins security do comes around, and I feel like these three concerns need to be addressed as soon as possible. And this is something that needs to be paid attention to. On the next is the better lighting system. I think since I got to Hopkins around in 2019, we definitely have better lighting than what we had before. But people are also saying that there should be better lighting on the south of the campus, especially near the Wyman Park area and the St. Martin's Martin Drive is relatively pretty dark. And also, if you move a little bit up north of the campus, so if you go along the East University, the lacrosse, like East University Parkway, it gets a little to your left, to West University Parkway, it gets a little dark. Past if you pass the hotel, it gets a little dark, and I think that's where the recent incident happened. So better lighting there, and we also received many community-based feedback saying that we need to invest in the community, saying that we need to strengthen our ties with the community and make sure that Hopkins is integrated. Hopkins is within the community and working with the community rather than just existing and cutting ties with the community. Next is on the blue light. I'm sure you guys have all seen the blue light security system. Apparently some of them are not working. And a lot of them are on campus, but blue lights are not typically off campus, if I understand correctly. They're usually on campus on like Lower Charles Street area, but they're not really on anything beyond St. Paul Street and anything south of the Homewood apartment area. So we have a very empty blue light area. And we also received a lot of uh, feedback on increasing the safety educations within Hopkins. I think I was FYM 2 years ago or last year. We did a Hopkins safety, like a with a safety walk, but they want to have better understanding of the community and which area is safe, and just to get a better sense of the community and the public safety, they demand to have a better education on the safety that's targeted for JH Bowling campus. And now we're gonna open the floor up to the Senate, and then we're gonna continue our Q&A session. So I will motion to Q&A session for 30 minutes with 1 minute, 2 minute speaking time.
Any seconds? Oh,
Well, then, yes. So,
oh yes. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please? Give all of us know who you are.
So,
that's fine.
good evening, everyone. My name is Ron Zach. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Public Safety. Good evening, I'm Richard Gordon, Vice President for Public Safety.
Matt Walson is the executive director for Johnson.
AVP Jackson has on-campus related issues, and AVP Simmons has all health system in East Lawn.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all in favor of moving into a 30-minute Q&A with 2-minute speaking times, please say aye. All the opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? We're going to begin our Q&A. I'm start off with G1, and then just please raise your hand, and then when I point at you, you will be added to our speakers list.
I live on time.
Sure.
So, we'll all take a brief jump at answering this question. So one of the problems is that I hear that our allies, individuals, the contractor here, are sometimes on their phones, and that's not their job. I think there's confusion about what their responsibilities actually are. Their function is an observe and report, meaning that if something was happening in between them and the line of sight to the next officer, then their responsibility is to get on the radio and get assistance, but not to actually intervene. Whereas your campus police officers are unarmed, but special police officers in the state of Maryland who have powers of arrest, but they're unarmed. And so, they do have the authority to intervene. And, all of them are part of what's is a comprehensive public safety system, which we most recently added, the behavioral health crisis support team, so that we can send licensed clinicians and we can do who and throws in the health crisis. The addition of the JHPP wouldn't supplant any of those things. It would keep all of those things intact and just provide us with the appropriate resource for when violence and serious issues impact us. And, I think we know that they impact us way more than any of us should be responsible. So the yellow jacket individuals are observed and reported. And at no time is it appropriate for them to not be paying attention to their surroundings and be on the phone. I just want to say this for the record, cop and campus police officer is the same. So y'all call them, say cop, and what you describe as this. Okay.
Yeah, no reason I add that. My expectation for all our staff, no matter what color the uniform is, that they're an ambassador for the university. I have a no wrongdoing policy. So basically that means you really don't need to know what the individual's function is. Whoever you go to should be able to get you the resource that you need to solve whatever problem that you have.
Okay, from there, we're gonna go over to David and then.
I'm David. I went to high school in Bergen Street, and I just wanted to ask, knowing that Baltimore is like one of the police cities there, like Baltimore Police Department and over $500 million of the budget, what can the JHPD offer at the bottom of the government in Florida offer?
So I get your question, and one of the things is that for us, it's about having that comprehensive system where we can match the right resource to the right situation. And so currently, I laid out several things that we have. We have unarmed campus police officers, we have campus public safety officers, and we have the allied officers, the contract safety officers. We have the licensed clinicians for the behavioral practice support team. What we don't have is something to address issues when we have violence and when we have serious crime. We've tried to address that in the past by having the Baltimore City Police Department and the Baltimore Sheriff's present. We had those officers on campus 24 hours a day, all that. The problem is that BPD is incredibly short-handed. So we suffer from poor shoulders. And anytime something emerges anywhere in the city happens, those officers can get yanked away. So I've been asked, well, why not just contribute money to BPD and allow them to put more officers here? And the answer to that question is that your municipal resources are always going to be deployed where they're most needed throughout the municipality, which just makes sense for Baltimore. But it also speaks to why we need those dedicated resources here. And when you look at it from a standpoint of it's not a binary choice between whether you should have the JHPD and whether you shouldn't have the JHPD, which was answered back in 2019 by the legislature who considered, every factor possible. When you look at it from the standpoint that policing is always going to be a necessary part of public safety, then it just makes sense if you understand the benefits you get from having those police be accountable directly to you and not just some other entity. And in addition to increased response times, you get an increased engagement because those officers only have to worry about you. And you get increased internal now. Right now, if one of the BPD officers or sheriff's department transgress one of us, then the most I can do is say, you can't work with it. But then I have to go to another entity and say, hey, this happened. Will you hold that individual accountable? With a JHPD that's accountable directly to you and us, I get to raise the cost of bad behavior right here and right now without having to worry about a third party. So it's to me, it's really not about an academic exercise for the JHPD. For me, it's about a more practical consideration between 30 years of experience that tell me that policing is always going to be necessary. You talk about, you use the term over police. And here's the thing. I've worked in historically marginalized communities for a long time. And I'm going to tell you right now, they want and they know that they need good policing. They don't want policing that mistreats or abuses. But, I don't want to ramble, but I came to a sad reality many years ago. And it was that the same communities who suffer from improper policing, like racial profiling and disproportionate contact, they know that they suffer disproportionately from violence if you will remove the police. So the answer is not to remove the police from the community. The answer is to remove the improper behavior from policing. And I think that, am I telling you I'm hiring perfect people to do a perfect job? No. But I'm telling you that the likelihood that we'll do a better job at removing and not creating spaces for the improper behavior, I'll take my chances up against BPD than
The only piece I would add to that is that with our own police department, we get to create a sense of community. And I think in a lot of communities, and I'm from Baltimore as well. Did you go to college?
See.
I'm gonna answer your question anyway, David. For those who don't know, Pollock City had a huge rivalry involved. We just had the game there last week. And I'm a full member of Baltimore City Police Department. But with our own police department, we get to build a sense of community because you have those same folks as a part of the fabric of your community. And it's not a revolving door of officers showing up just because we call 911. It's a person that we know can be part of not only find a solution, but helping us better our community.
But remember, I talked about more practical considerations. Your BPD officers, sadly, that they run from one call to the next call to the next call to the next call. When things happen on campus, my police officer right now, they got nothing but time to look at videos and to link things up. And we routinely help solve problems. I mean, in April alone, we saw 4 robberies that happened. Every month we solve some crime. Although we have to turn that information over to BPD for them to go ahead and get an arrest warrant and hold the individual accountable. And here it's the robberies and thefts that we saw. We saw just in the last few months a murder in East Fall. So we had the time to do things, quite frankly, that BPD won't ever have the time to do just because of the nature of the call for service. And I think I think there's a lot of confusion as to the actual area that the JHPD. It's a very narrowly focused area that the JHPD will have jurisdiction on, and that's all we're seeking. We're not even seeking what the legislature authorized, which is here on this campus is University 28, Remington to Calvin. We're strictly on properties that are owned, leased, operated, or under the control of the university and used for university or institutional or educational institutions within that larger group. So it's actually a much tighter portion of it. Thank you.
Head over to Dollar.
I can drink stuff. So I was curious how you respond to the flip-flop relationship that Hawkins has with strengthening its connection with the community. I know just last May we had a meeting with President Day where he said one of the largest goals of the university is to strengthen the connection between the students and the city. And at the MOU, some of the largest opposition is from community members, not actually students. So I was just curious what your thoughts were following the implementation of JHPD to garner, like, even though the JHPD's implementation garnered such large opposition.
So that's a good question, but here's the thing. I'm here everything that comes in, not just a small slice of the information that comes in. So I would usually hear folks who are against the JHPD, but I also hear folks who are in staunch support of the JHPD, who oftentimes feel as if convey the fact that they feel like if they're louder about their support, then they'll get picked on and ridiculed by them. So I have to read an email from a student who's victimized and ask if I had the influence to get all of their classes put online so that they can take class from anywhere in the world but Baltimore. Like, and a lot of I hear everything. I wouldn't dare tell you that there are opposing voices, but don't be misled into thinking that there's not a wide array of support for the thing, because there is, and I hear those. And lately, I mean, I'm nothing but inundated by what the hell is going on? Why don't you have the police department done it? Oh, wait, was it? And my thing is, I can't succumb to that either, because I have to set up a police department that's going to give you constitutional policing and be narrowly focused. Like, nobody has to twist my arm to be protected. Like, I already want to be as protective, more protective than anything. So, like, I came in the door saying, hey, look, the ACLU has these recommendations to prevent racial injustices for college and university police department. I think we should adhere to these with fidelity. And when I say near fidelity, I only mean that some things I think we can do stronger than what they suggest. So when you level set and understand that when I hear people And I've been here for a little more than a year, and I've heard some great arguments against improper behavior of police. But I haven't heard one good sound argument about not having police. Because most of the time those are based on arguing of emotion and not practical considerations. You know, we already have police on this campus 24 hours a day. So when the level set there, it just makes sense that those police should be accountable to you and that you you look like 15, but as a 19-year-old have all the say in what they use and how they interact with you. That, like, nobody at Morgan State got that opportunity. Nobody at any of the local universities got that opportunity. You have that opportunity.
Harvey, you're first.
Hi, my name is Harvey Gutierrez. So my question is that most of the students I engage with who are in support of the intimidation of Johns Hopkins Private Police Department, vote for it to serve as a preventative, as opposed to solely a means of intervention when crime does. That being said, my current understanding, or memorandum of understanding, is that the police force implementation will not necessarily involve standardization of police officers on corners or patrols of that nature, similar to the current yellow jacket issues. To that extent, what is your response to the disparity roles between students and their concern safety and the implementation of this?
You lost it a little bit, so just back up and ask me what you are trying to get at, because I didn't. And if somebody picked up on it better, then go ahead and answer it. But just give it to me.
So, short and simple of it is, most of the students who I talk to who do want police on campus are hoping that it will very much be a police stationed on corners while patrolling streets. That being the case, from what I've read in memorandum of understanding, we aren't necessarily looking at police officers on corners like yes.
So let me stop you right there real fast. So now memoranda of understanding are these common every university and college and every police department of limited jurisdiction has one with the municipality or the county government, the county police department. They are narrowly focused documents that only talk about jurisdictional and operational issues only. They're not policy. So it wouldn't say who's deployed where and what. It literally would say what form is used and other just operational and jurisdictional issues. Ours is admittedly much longer than any of the existing ones because ours is the only one required to be public. And some of the things that we put in there are just to make sure that the public is aware that these things exist. Like normally, body cameras wouldn't be it's in the law, it's in the statute requiring us to have body cameras. But we wanted to make sure that the public knew that we were required to have body cameras and that folks could access that footage. So just understand that the MOU is not a policy document and it's a narrowly focused document where we describe how we relate with each other. That's it. Operational and jurisdictional issues. All of our policies will be developed transparently. And one of the things the legislature set up was the JHPD Accountability Board, and it gives them oversight capabilities and filing capabilities on all of our policies and our control metrics and so forth. So we'll be doing that at a later time, but very transparently and very publicly. And then all of our policies will be public documents as well. So you'll be able to go right to our website and say, hey, what's their use of force or what's their patrol? And all of those.
Okay. Still, like, bouncing off of that clarification, is there any current plan or goal for patrol officers on streets in Yellow Branches who would be members of the Johnson Hopkins Police?
So you'll likely see JHPD officers patrolling on foot, and vehicle, and bicycle, maybe even on Segway. But you'll likely see all the various models of patrol incorporated into JHPD.
In addition to current.
So understand this also, the legislature and the legislation require that Johns Hopkins maintain all of its current public safety function. So we can't say, hey, the yellow jackets are gone, or hey, the campus, unarmed campus police officers are gone.
Thank you.
Sophie.
HPD personnel. That's like another big issue that a lot of students are concerned about. Obviously, we're all aware that with all these cases and with any sort of like violence that happens on or off campus, it does involve people with any sort of like armed weapon, or any sort of like assault weapon. However, like just talking to a lot of the students on campus, a large percentage of us really don't feel comfortable with JHPD with any sort of armed or like a firearm. That's really a main concern for us. And we feel that violence really trying to like tackle violence with I guess more violence. It's not really always the way. So my kind of question is like how can we regulate that with especially if JHPD really do have any sort of like firearms. How can we regulate that and ensure that there's no fatalities involved in sort of high level like pace rises? Yeah.
So, yes, a few different things you made, a few different comments. So one, practical considerations. You say that you don't feel comfortable with an armed JHPD with firearms on campus. You already have firearms on campus 24 hours a day with the Baltimore City Police Officers and the Baltimore City Sheriffs that behind. So under levels that there. So the understanding for us is that we'll have dedicated resources, policing resources that are accountable to us. The second part of your statement was what? I'm old, I lose track a little bit, but the second part of your statement, he said, what?
It's really about situation that arises and requires.
So then it's about training. And so all of our officers will be required to go through all of the training mandated by the regulatory agency here in the state of Maryland. So everybody, the same training and academy that the state police go through, that all municipal police officers are required to, our officers have to go through. The legislation mandates other training that we have to go through, like cultural awareness and diversity and such. But I see that as a basic, and then our goal is to ensure that all officers are trained above the baseline. So it's about our officers having training and our policies reflecting that we value the sanctity of human life above all other things. And that on the rare instances where force is required, that it's only the minimal amount of force necessary to be required. Our officers will have the best training in de-escalation, and de-escalation is what will carry the day. One of the trainings that I particularly like is called ICAT, or Integrated Communications and Assessment Tactics. And I talk about it a lot because it's about using every alternative except for force. But the small difference was when I went through the Philadelphia Police Academy almost 30 years ago, we were taught, it was ingrained in us and it was drilled in us that you and your partner have to do whatever is necessary to make it home safely every day. And ICAT stops, full stop, and says, no, you and everybody you encounter has to make it home safely every day. It sounds like a small difference, but it's meant the world of difference to me. It was very powerful. So the very first thing I did when I was in charge of a police department was brought in. And we're going to do the same thing there. Training that values the sanctity of human life above all else. It won't be a gray area and our boss.
I have two questions. For the first question is regarding the training. I'm wondering if these training materials and the context of this training will be available for the public.
So I think the state stuff already is available. The curriculum already is. Once again, that's mandated. But anything you do above and beyond the baseline. So it's been my practice to invite, I want to say, partner agencies into the training as well. The role is a little different for me this time. That time I was the municipal chief police commissioner, inviting Harvard and MIT police department into the training. Here now I'm the university individual who's in charge of who will be getting the training in. But BPD, I might not be able to invite all 3,000. Well, they're down to 2,000. They should be able to, but all 2,000 will come to the training. But they'll always have seats available in any advanced training.
By meaning of public, I meant to like the neighborhoods, or the Johns Hopkins students or faculty members will have an idea what kind of training they're receiving.
Yeah, and one of the best ways so we'll make all of that public. Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the also thing for the lived experience of it are, like civilian police academy type things. And I think that we'll try to do something like that here at Hopkins as well.
And the second question is, can you pull the jurisdiction map? Is on the screen. So yeah. Is regarding the jurisdiction of Johns Hopkins, I read the MOU and our jurisdiction is Homewood campus is a very interesting campus that our actual on-campus property is very small compared to other state schools or other big private university where generally most of the students are within the on-campus, while we often live in a off-campus housing. I read the October and September and multiple the major incident reports that was published by the Johns Hopkins Public Safety, and it was kind of concerning to see that majority of them fall out of the JHPD jurisdiction. So I want to know what would happen if a crime or some kind of incidents happen outside of the JHPD jurisdiction. Would it be handled by the Baltimore Police Department just solely, or would it be some kind of collaboration? And if the major crimes are happening outside of the JHPD jurisdiction, then how would if I see a crime or some kind of a major crime, I would think of it as like we need more security there, right? But this jurisdiction, a lot of people have reached out to me is that those are the safe part of campus, right? This is like, I don't think I will get robbed in the middle of Gilman Tower, right? If that happens, yeah, but that's yeah. To the St. Martin Drive, yeah.
But I'm here then, and remember, the campus-defined area where we have jurisdiction comes through the legislature. And so they synthesized a bunch of factors and then said, okay, in an effort to be as protective as possible to prevent against over-policing and drifting into the community. And for Hopkins, one day buying up the whole city and then having jurisdiction over it, they were very restrictive. So we don't have jurisdiction over currently existing properties. The JHPD won't over stuff that Hopkins owns right now, like the Eastern Campus, like Keswick, like several places throughout the city. And so it's not ideal, but the legislature sought to, be protective and provide those boundaries. But then it did also say, hey, there may be a community that says we want the jurisdiction to expand. And so they set a process by which, with a majority approval, an adjacent community can ask the JHPD to expand its jurisdiction. So we're not seeking to do that right now, but that a process has to be developed by which that could happen, where a community can come to us and ask us to expand the jurisdiction. That has to be approved. It doesn't have to be approved. City council has to enter a resolution and say that the state mandated process was adhered to for that to occur. So, I think they did a great job balancing, the need for Hopkins to be able to be self-sufficient and provide protection, but then also to allow additional communities to expand that jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you very much.
Up next, we have Brianna.
We know you bring up.
It's something that is not even on the stop right now. And I don't feel safe walking from my apartment, yeah, for that, thanks, so. Because there's not enough streetlights, I've been followed home, I've had cars follow me, I had a guy try to get me to go into his car while I was walking home, I was walking from Masons, maybe 3 blocks away. And the concerns that we've heard brought up about being yellow vested security guards, being on FaceTime, being high, watching TikTok, being inside the or talking to their friends, as well as campus security, the actual car being aggregated in one spot. I've never seen campus security anywhere besides at one area in Milford and Realm Park. But overall, are you guys taking any steps to address issues such as training for campus security, better lighting, not having to wait 30 minutes in sketchier areas for police shuttles, etc. I know we just met the transportation law, that it's not quite the jurisdiction. But are there any steps you're taking besides the sports that you've been focused on?
But all of those things impact and are part of public safety. Public safety isn't just this narrow umbrella that deals with police and this fire, disaster preparedness, risk management, it's lighting, it's infrastructure, it's all of those. So the JHPD is always meant only to be a small part of, infrastructure that we have. So yes, and I think that it's really more about not a system that looks to address root causes of violence, or not a system that looks to attack violence when it occurs. It's all of those things, and it's the whole spectrum of that. So the university does a lot of things aimed at, because when I talked to the president when I was going through the process, I thought it was very refreshing that it was clear that he understood that as Baltimore goes is the way Hopkins, and as Hopkins goes is the way Baltimore goes. Like the two are inextricably linked. So I was pleased to find out that millions of dollars goes from Hopkins to the city's anti-violence efforts. Like gun violence. The mayor has a youth violence reduction strategy, which is the centerpiece of this crime plan. And Hopkins contributes millions of dollars to that. One of the programs that I'm really a proponent of is ROCA. It's a program whose mission is to break the cycle of incarceration and poverty. And Hopkins puts millions to that. The Community Innovation Fund, which takes community-based safety efforts and raises those up by supporting them financially in 9 different groups, Hopkins funds. We're a year and a couple of months into a $6 million 4-year plan for those things. So it's not just about addressing violence when it occurs, because you need to be able to do that, but it's about looking to impact violence before that occurs. So Hopkins, and I can't even sit here and run off the whole list mentally, like my memory doesn't work, that well to tell you everything that Hopkins does to financially contribute to anti-violence efforts for the city.
Not just say more granular in terms of that. We do enjoy a robust relationship with facilities and transportation. I know oftentimes because we're public safety, like a lot of the needs and concerns are streamed to our department, but we don't have finite control over Blue Jay shuttle schedules, how many Blue Jay shuttles are running, where the lights are placed, who funds lighting, things like that. But we do fund a lot of those concerns to those departments, and we do work with Bob McLean and Greg Smith in transportation to get those concerns to them so they can make adjustments. One example is that where the shuttle running to the Micah and Parkway down North Avenue. And because of concerns from groups like this, they would make the adjustments to those shuttles.
I just want to piggyback on the question real quick. Is your office aware of the issues regarding the Allied Security? Is that the company name? Before this meeting today,
we've gotten complaints of individuals on phone and go out and address it. We need disciplined individuals for.
And is there a way of students or other faculty members to report those security members? Is there a way of doing that?
So yes,
Yeah.
yes, there is, and I would say a lot of folks take advantage of it, particularly through LiveSafe, the LiveSafe app, and where you can even report things anonymously. I know sometimes folks aren't comfortable with presenting their name with whatever the complaint is, but that's monitored 24 hours a day. So we can make an adjustments as soon as we get that information in. And we do work with folks at Allied Universal and their leadership team to make adjustments as that happens and to increase their training as well, not just the training of JHU officers. But I will say there's a lot of turnover. So we do a lot of retraining for officers as new officers come in. But information like this that we get tonight is vital in helping us hold them to the standard that we expect.
Thank you very much.
Next, we're back to Dave.
For my name is Randy Reggie. So from my understanding, like one of the greatest advantages of the JH would be over the response time and the availability of all. And I wanted to ask whether there is data or like a history of crimes and bringing home from together practices that we have been proactive on with like a further response activity where was there a time where there was innocently that resulted in that.
So I get that question, and once again, I can't stress hard enough that it's more of a practical consideration for me than an academic at this time. But you don't have to look further than nearby. All Morgan State, cop, shooting. Who's the first police department? Their police department. They're always going to be there faster than the municipal change department. And then guess what? They're not wasting valuable times while you're somewhere bleeding from a serious injury, trying to find where guilt and all, where guard, because they're your police officers, they know your campus and they want to get to you fast. So is there empirical data? Yes, there is empirical data. The university put a lot of time and effort into interim studies that's on the public safety website, and you can go look at it. But for me, it's really about practical consideration. Officers who are there and can't leave there are going to get there faster because they're already.
Notice that personal example to response time. 4,000 folks that we had a robbery on campus last week. Our current GGU officers, for the first officers there, were actually suing the suspects. And just to put that in context, I had unarmed officers chasing armed suspects. And in my mind, what's worrisome is what's going to happen when they leave, or they try to take them into custody. So I would rather have had the appropriate resource there as opposed to sending an unarmed person to chase armed suspects who had just committed a violent robbery.
And please understand, in accordance with the ACLU's recommendation, if it was something that I wouldn't have sent an armed police officer to today, then I'm not going to send an armed police officer to it when I have the JHP. I have to keep that department narrowly focused. I think that sometimes folks think that, oh, well, he's a police officer. I've been a black man much longer than I've been anything else this time. So I do understand. And there are still places that I go where I don't always still go. And so for me, it's about making sure that the 19-year-old lady, y'all feel safe and welcome everywhere. So it's not that you have concerns about racial injustices. It's about we have concerns, like we share those concerns. And when you voice them, I hear you. But it's mutual concerns that we want to avoid those.
I have a quick question about the response time. If let's just say I live like right here, so if I call 911, who will be the one that arrives?
So then we have to explain how that works. So it's not about that we have jurisdiction or BPD in this jurisdiction. We have what's called concurrent jurisdiction in the areas where the JHPD will have jurisdiction. So BPD always has jurisdiction. So the way it works, calls don't come into the JHP. They'll always go into BPD. Based on the location of the call and the history in the dispatcher will say, oh, hey, this is also a Hopkins spot. And if it's and then decide whether they'll send that call to Hopkins or dispatch. If it's a serious thing, then they're going to send it to BPD and JHPD at the same time. And if it's another department that has jurisdiction as well, like say NTA, they're going to send it to all of those departments. And there may be a time when a Hopkins officer will respond to an incident off jurisdiction, but it'll be something in the vein of you'll say, hey, I'm a Hopkins student and was on campus earlier today when this incident occurred. And then they'll either connect you directly to Hopkins PD or they may send someone to come take your like depending on the seriousness or the nature of it. If it's minor, you'll get what's called a differential response, where you'll probably have that report taken over the phone. If it was a serious event that required a follow-up investigation, particularly follow-up from BPD, then you'll get a response.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Z.
The good evening, members of the response, with the finance, DB, and so basically, I have like two parts of the question. So the first one is that BB Barnett already said that we have firearm, we have firearm with BBD already, so that's sort of being okay with JHPD having the firearm. And also you said that for JHPD we can get there faster and possibly save people from injuries faster. But I just feel like it's like now it's always more like a rob and dash situation where
What situation?
like a rob dash
Rob and dash.
where it happened really fast, and then because I have friends that were robbed in her car with 4 people armed, and I was just wondering, like, it's like you said, like increase efficiency, but that also means that they might get there in time. So would they get there in time? I'm just afraid there might be like an escalation of situations where we have two party with guns with different interests, and then the robber might get hurt, the police might get hurt, and even and it might take hostage, the victim might get hurt. And I just feel like if we're addressing like safety or student safety as the core goal, then this is like a serious issue related to the most common.
So to me, that's not a singular issue. It's like, so you're saying that if the police response, then that in and of itself could cause violence to occur.
Because right now, I've spent a lot of time talking at any sort of that related things about other people. There's a murder happening in 2005, and this murder not by wrong.
So listen, so think of it in these terms. And once again, it's always about more practical considerations for me. So for me, it's not about whether 57 robberies happened or whether 17 robberies happened. It's about the fact that robberies with guns happen. And that each time one of those things occur, that we could experience the worst possible outcome every time. So we have to do everything we can, everything within our power to limit the opportunities for those things to happen, for those robberies to happen. And I've been, as far as the armed response, creating a propensity for more violence, I've had that question posed at me in another group. And it was about, well, I just feel like complying with the robbery, which I'm going to ask you to do, made it better. And I was afraid to call the police because I didn't want the police to shoot the minority which was robbed. And that question and that thing was cloaked in more naivety than my 30 years of experience would allow me to have, because the last time I Googled complied with robbery, you can do it now, +, shot anyway. Google put back 2.7 million responses in a third of a second, because people comply with robberies all the time and are shot anyway. So the fact that you survive a robbery, point a gun without being shot, you would love it. Not that it did contribute to, police officers put themselves in harm's way and are shot and killed every day. And that's a thing. But the most appropriate resource to respond when you are threatened with gun violence and serious violence is an armed response from a police officer. And I promise that here at Hopkins, you won't get that response unless it's needed. If it's a cat stuck in a tree, then you're gonna get something else. If it's, somebody looking in the car, you're gonna get something else. But if it's about serious injury where seconds matter, and if it's about violence, then you're gonna get an armed response from the JHP.
Sure.
I'm sure I've seen your class. Part of my question was really answered, so I'm going to go as how our team is expected to respond to violent situations. And with such training, but primarily to like stage related state rules. As I also want to know how costs are not expected to respond to violent situations at all. And expected to follow each degree. And also that you mentioned that they are some kind of situations, but I believe it says that I mean those will be in the midst of the community plus as well as ability for them.
Can I have to stop you there? So the MOU doesn't say that. The MOU says what the state law says, that will be the primary response. And it says that BPD will be responsible for the follow-up, the primary investigation into serious crimes. And that JHPG will be responsible for the investigation of what you were about to say, burglary, larceny, and vehicle thief. So it's about follow-up investigation, not initial response. Okay, and it's
You could also answer the how each degree is expected to respond to that.
it's hard expected to respond to violent situation. So I mean, once again, each individual incident will require, a different response from the officer, but the officer level set will understand that it's their responsibility only to use force if and when it's necessary, and to use all the other tools available to them in most situations. And then, when force is necessary, only the least amount of force that is required. And it's his responsibility and his responsibility to make sure that I don't step across a line when using force. And so they're held to the same standard that I'm held to. So they got to make sure that and we got to make sure that we do. So it's about being able to make sure that your officers are well trained, which we will do, and making sure that you raise the cost for bad behavior, so that folks understand that there's not a gray area, like abuse and mistreatment of the public aren't tolerated, period. But I think that you'll find that with your own police department, that they'll not only just be accountable to you, but they'll know you, and you'll see them, these individuals, day in and day out. And so they'll be able to, serve you better, because you're the only thing they have to, serve. So there are benefits to having. I think your question was about decoupling when violence is afoot and when it's not, and that's never going to be a clean formula, because so one of the things we have to do is be willing not to send anybody. So when you call and say, hey, that man's walking down the street acting suspicious, well, it better be more than me to walking down the street with my black skin, because you're not going to get a response from nobody, not from my armed police department, not from my unarmed officers, not from anybody, because you need to be able to articulate what suspicious is. But if you call and say that I'm doing something that might be from an unarmed public safety officer, then there will be times when that individual presents as armed to my unarmed public safety officers, and there's going to be post-ups, let's get this armed response here. And there will be times when armed police officer responds, and they'll say, oh, this person is in the throes of a mental health crisis. You don't need me. Let's hurry up and get a licensed clinician. So it's not always clean, calculus and formula, but we do our best to decouple the information when the call comes in, so that we can make a determination of sending the right resource for the right situation.
Yeah. Are you making sure that these officers are properly trained? Like, are you purely coming in to do a police academy?
Well, I'm sorry, but just our time has ran out, and I just want to ask if you guys are okay with taking 5 or 6 more questions that's currently on the question list, or if you guys have to get going. It's already 8:23. We just want to be mindful of your
So
time.
let me understand. Take level set right here with this. this is not the only opportunity you're gonna have for us with us. You can invite us back as much as you would like to, and we can have this conversation.
Yes, we can continue this conversation.
Also, I want to put out there that soon we'll be putting advertisement out, asking for individuals who are willing to serve on the student advisory group for public safety. And I would hope that we could get that message out, and that we could get some volunteers. So that's another way to directly impact what public safety looks like here. But as far as your questions, we're here. So
Okay, so we have currently 6, including Brianna, questions left. We will not take any questions more than 8, more than those 6. So we will extend, I guess I have to motion. I'll motion to extend our Q&A by 30 minutes to Ms. Meantime.
All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
I yield my time.
Charlotte, do you want to finish your question?
So it's all of those things. So it's the state mandated requirement. So anybody who we hire who isn't currently a certified police officer in the state of Maryland will have to matriculate through a police academy and successfully graduate that academy. And then we would give them what I refer to as a club to baseline training on top of what they got to police academy. And they would be required to show the proficiency in some of those training. Other trainings are, being exposed to the training is the requirement. So it's a hodgepodge, it's a mixture of all of those.
Can you elaborate what you mean by PTA? That's a situation like out of Paul, like so that you can test on
It's all of those things. There's all of those things, and the legislature required that it be crisis intervention training. So that's how to identify individuals who are in the throes of mental health issues as opposed to criminality, because sometimes those behaviors mimic each other. It's training based on cultural awareness and racial bias and implicit bias. It's so like one of the things that I did when I was in Cambridge, landed in here, was I brought this historical injustice and preference policing training. And it was a very uncomfortable training, but it's uncomfortable for most, but it was necessary for all. But what it did was it was designed to have officers get a greater understanding of the police's and law enforcement's involvement in racial violence historically, like in the South, turning over a black man to an angry white mob, participating in KKK activities, and things of that nature, because it helped you to understand why intergenerational trauma exists in some communities today. Why you go into this community today and people are resistant of law enforcement. Those type of trainings are, that training wasn't, we were the first, for a while, we were the only department in the country that had it. Now we're one of the few departments in the country to have that training. But those types of training are valuable because they tear away of underbelly and look at the dark past of the profession. So it's I can't sit here and tell you every training is going to do this. It's a lot of training.
My last question is, how self-directed as far as online security or security and physical training?
Absolutely, they'll be exposed to all of the training that the officers are exposed to, with the underlying thought process to we serve in the same community.
Next to LeBron.
Well, I think that's why. So I think the concept of accountability comes up quite often, but even if you got into this generally used in daily housekeeping, because it's like the endings of it are generally scattered throughout like the guiding documentation. I was hoping you could just highlight the main ways in which JHPD will be accountable to students specifically.
So yes, so the legislature created the JHPD Accountability Board, which is a mixture of students, community, staff, and faculty to provide oversight for policy and metrics that they pertain to crime and race and training for the police department. So that's one way. The legislature also removed liability tax for the JHPD. So every officer in the state can claim sovereign immunity, but not officers who work for the JHPD. So that in and of itself raises the cost of their behavior. The state mandated complaint process applies to the JHPD. So it requires that we set up a mechanism by which folks can make a complaint either anonymously or come forward and make a complaint. We're also under the purview of the Baltimore City Civilian Review Board and the Baltimore City Accountability Board. So it builds in all types of layers of accountability. And that doesn't mean that we can't create additional layers of accountability, but those are built in to the legislative process.
Thank you. And a brief follow-up question. So if I recall correctly, I think the accountability, like the one with students, will I think one of the main like explicit hours is that like they can submit like a complaint or something, and then like within like 120 days or something, there has to be a response. So are there any other like required responses? Like I guess like what I'm asking is like community members whose students can submit suggestions or or things of that nature. What is required in return, like beyond JHPD?
So that question is a bit nebulous. So you're saying that if a student submitted a complaint directly to me, for instance, but outside of the accountability board process, what's required?
I think for both cases, sorry, so I know that wasn't as clear, but like for example, let's say like in the case of the board, after 120 days, like what type of response is required? Like can it just say, okay, we've read your suggestion, or do they like what type of action has to be taken?
So that okay, I got you, and I like that question. So I told the accountability board because the legislation is clear that it gave them advisory authority and not investigating authority, because when it created the JHPD accountability board, it also placed the JHPD under the purview of the Baltimore City Civilian Review Board, who had investigative power. And then they went and created a new board who had investigative power. The JHPD falls under both of those. So it didn't seek to give its accountability board investigative power, it gave them advisory. But I told them from the very beginning when I reconstituted that I view them as a strong accountability, meaning that if they advise that something be done in the realm of policy and it falls under be done, and it was in line with 21st century policing, that it didn't run afoul of the law, that it made sense to do, then I would do it. Flat. So understand that what I have to do is respond in 120 days. But what I'm committed to do is to do the sensible things that they say to do.
Got it. Thank you. And is this like relating to interguided documentation by any chance? In the guided documentation for the accountability orders?
It's written in the state law. So in the Community Safety and Strengthening Act, it is on our website, so you can go on the public safety website and look at it. But yeah, it's in the state law that where they have authority and stated. But the annotated code is actually local here in the state law. What it is, why that's not on our website, because it gets confusing. We direct people to two different things. But I think the annotated code is much clearer because everything is broken down into pages. Like this page is only talking about training. This page is only talking about, recruiting. This page is only so. That's why I like the animated sort of back. But it's on our website.
All right, thank you.
Harvey.
So my question is, or is with regards to using jurisdiction or seating high school.
For who?
Seating high school, not the
School review.
yeah, like
School review.
Okay.
Wait, yeah, I don't know if it's building.
That's where,
It's the small little,
The school,
that's,
since it's in a smaller section removed from the main chunk, what would I mean, I know that this is more or the question because of policy and communication and whatnot, but is that also going to have like a mini station kind of thing? What would the implementation for officers on the ground?
so don't expect that it would have a mini station, but expect that you would see JHPD officers patrolling and stopping at that location.
Okay. And then my second question is, what does the current timeline of implementation basically?
So, good question. So we posted the MOU, the MOU, the memorandum of understanding, that was required by the statute. But once again, it's required everywhere, just as public fund. We posted the draft of that on September 19th, which triggered a 30-day public comment period, which then triggered a subsequent 30-day comment period for city council. So both of those periods will be up mid-November. And at that point, then we'll synthesize all of the feedback and have a final draft. Once that final draft is done, then that's when we can begin some more substantive hiring and whatnot for the JHPD. I'm thinking everything went well. I think the earliest you could hope to find JHPD officer patrolling would be between June and August of next year. All right. Thank you.
from there up next we have dogs.
So, not necessarily the JHPD itself, but I'm curious about measures the public safety office is taking to educate staff, community, and the students. Although there are a lot of resources just on the website, I'm curious if there's any plans for more like how basic presence people actually have to seek out from your website or other resources, because although they exist, I feel like a lot of students won't take advantage of that, but that shouldn't disadvantage them from knowing the review of the JHPD. That's all.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. And then I'll take a step back to when we were doing what were then called safety walks, and then we migrated to community walks. What they really were an opportunity to not only walk through the community, but also have just candid discussions about safety and safety in Baltimore, and things you could do to be safe. And unfortunately, as you know, we got into COVID, we kind of went away from that. There was also some discussion of modifying the orientation experience for first year students. When I first got to Hopkins, there was a lot of information thrown to students in like 3 days. And so typically when they got to my portion, they were checked out, right? They were thinking about where's home, where to eat, how long my family going to be here, and when can I see them? So a lot of information we gave them during that time was kind of lost. So we started doing smaller group sessions. I meet with the RAs frequently during their meetings and try to get concerns from students who are living resident, on campus. But to your point, yes, we need to do, and I was glad to see it on the synthesized data that educational opportunities is number one, is a priority. And we are going to work to provide more of those educational opportunities.
Elisa?
So my question was, JHPD question. Sorry, stop section.
I'm sorry. You start going. Yeah. Okay.
My question was, what is the role of JHPD in addressing concerns or reports of sexual harassment?
So, sexual harassment and sexual assault and sexual violence are obviously very important. So I'm going to make sure that all of our officers go through what we call the same training that a sexual assault response team or SART team undergoes. And one of the things is making sure that it's victim centered and then trauma informed. I've been doing this for a long time, and it wasn't always a space for that. And being victim centered and trauma informed helps to prevent re-victimizing someone who's already been through, an ordeal. Like we used to say, for instance, tell me what happened. You say what happened, then but what did you do? Well, that's implying that you had to do something. It's implying that you may have done something wrong. It's not about that. Being trauma informed is about understanding how trauma impacts the organism, meaning that unfortunately, 30 years ago when I started this business, we didn't understand how trauma impacted the brain. And I've literally heard detectives say, now she's telling me she was looking at his face the whole time, but yet she can't describe his face. Not understanding that trauma takes chunks of your memory like that. Now, today, 30 years later, we don't forensically interview an individual until they've had 2 sleep cycles. And you'd be naive to think that that victim didn't feel the detective's disbelief 30 years ago. And then 2 days later, when she said, oh yeah, he had a mole right here, and he had a scar right here, that same detective was like, nah, she mean to tell me 30 minutes afterwards, she couldn't tell me he had a mole right here and a scar right here, but 2 days later, she could talk. We didn't know that's how trauma impacted. So it's about making sure that all of our officers are victim-centered and trauma-informed, and then receive that above the baseline training that I talked about. So the same training that your sexual assault nurses, examiners receive, and the sexual assault response teams in big cities receive, all of our officers will receive that, in addition to the other entities here at Hopkins that are responsible for sexual assaults and reporting.
And we partner with those entities. I'm a member of the Sexual Violence Advisory Committee. So it starts from the top down. So to echo what Dr. Bard says, our involvement with committees and other departments on campus is echoed down through our department, our officers.
Up next.
Hi, I'm Paula, I'm Senator, and the question was regarding the non-JHU affiliates. If they have a problem or complaint against JHPD, would they also go to like the accountability board, the other ones that you mentioned earlier, and how do you intend to get this information out to them?
So the information has to be public. So we have to have a public process. So it'll be on our website. It'll be in other entities, and it'll be public through the Civilian Review Board for the city, through the city's accountability board. So the information on how to make a complaint. And remember, it doesn't matter what your affiliation is to us when you make a complaint. It's that you have a complaint to make. So that won't, that's not germane to the complaint process. None of it is. It's just that you have a complaint and you need to investigate. And in many cases, if I'm correct.
Last but not least, Brianna.
Yeah, it makes sense. And he said that they respond to a really large variety of things within their jurisdiction, including robberies and sexual assaults, self-harassments that he's talked about, but also overdoses, suicides, noise complaints, stuff like that. And I feel like people have been focused a lot on like robbery and kidnapping aspect of this, and not much on if there's a mental health issue, if one of the fraternities is throwing a party of music Baltimore police response to that. You guys can respond to that. So if you guys talk about how these forces, projected to respond to some things outside of violence.
So I don't know that I fully understand your question, to be honest, but I heard some things like harm reduction. So somebody's suffering from a heroin. You shouldn't have a concern or worry in the world about getting that individual. So, I'm asked questions about amnesty and understand that, it's our job to provide relief to situations, not to, take them worse or impugn. So yeah, our officers carry Narcan and be able to respond to those situations. The rest of your question, I'm quite frankly didn't hear or didn't understand.
And just real quick before you go to that, I just want to echo Dr. Barr's sentiment. I'm glad that you brought that piece up. And I'm not sure where your dad works, but we're kind of operating in an inverse, and then we already have an unarmed public safety component here. And I say that because that public safety component is already fulfilling a lot of the things that you mentioned. Since I've been here, my team, or Dr. Barr's team, our team, has saved 3 folks who went into those overdose. And that's through the use of Narcan, because all officers carry Narcan. Our folks go to a lot of those complaints and work with Calvin's team about mitigating the source of those complaints as opposed to the punitive measures. And what can we do to make those off-campus parties or off-campus housing part of the greater Baltimore community? So we're working to do those things now and then supplementing with the addition of a small.
Exactly. Thank you. There's an issue existing already, the allied personnel with the yellow jackets, where they don't know on campus, they don't know location. If I remember asking, hey, could I get an escort to walk me to so-and-so, they didn't know where it was. Are there measures in place to familiarize the new officers as well as the old officers with our campus, just keyed off geography wise, and I'll be able to drop it's like a sentence down on stock that you're
I think it's fine.
where.
So the short answer is yes. And one of the things I implemented, particularly with the allied security officers, that you'll see them with clipboards. And on the back of that clipboard is a map. Because I didn't want the excuse to be, hey, I don't know where Gilman is. I don't know if I can walk you from Subway to Barnes and Noble. I don't know if I can do that. So at least, even the very worst scenario is that they can show the person who's lost a map and they can kind of figure it out for themselves. But the best scenario is that also can show the map and get the pointed directions of how to get to A to B, or hey, I can't walk you there, but I can call someone else who can walk you to that. And that's what the expectation is. So there's a constant monitoring of Ally, and not just Ally, but our entire public safety umbrella as it is. One thing that I would ask, hopefully, that when there are complaints or concerns about Ally, that you send them to our team in real time. I know too often we wait till there's occasions like this, and we talk about all the complaints that have happened, and then we start talking about dates. It's like, well, that was 3 years ago, and that person may not work here. I want to be able to make adjustments as soon as possible. That way, no one else experiences whatever complaint happens in the first minute.
Could you email your office to you? So we can send them how they're submitting.
Through the LiveSafe, right?
Yeah, so we do the LiveSafe app, and we also have a feedback mechanism on our website. And both of those can be done anonymously.
It truly is a not. I think sometimes folks think that they don't have ability. Sometimes that's not all. We get serious complaints with not enough information. And so we're at the mercy of waiting for another complaint to come in that fills in the gaps or the holes that we need to be able to get to the crux of the problem.
All right, and then the very last portion of my question, it's actually somebody else's question. This is from Marcelli. Is there a way for Hawkins as a university to support students who express feelings such as anxiety or fear surrounding these courses so that they are heard when the issue is not desensitized? We feel to Marcelli for like a second if you have anything to supplement that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I talked to the were in areas where we are present, and so I thought that the release, many of these students have had not only negative but traumatic experiences and especially with the minority groups. So yeah, just wondering how can you not desensitize their relations to this issue?
So if you're saying, are you listening to folks who have opinion against having police here, then the answer is yes. I mean, I'm doing that all the time. I hear the voices and I share the concerns that individuals have. But once again, I think I stated it earlier. I've heard concerns about improper policing behavior. And I share those concerns, and the goal is to do anything possible to avoid those things from happening. If your question was, did you ask about what to do for individuals experiencing trauma behind the impending police department?
I would also ask them how can you not ignore the sentiments regarding police around campus?
Oh, I'm not ignoring them, and historically, I actually find that those voices help me do a better job.
Kaya.
There's an increasing effort to prioritizing the mental health on campus. And just building on what Rivan said, if there was a student that was having a mental health crisis where they're not necessarily learning maybe struggling themselves, for example, what measures will be taking so that the JHPD will not see this individual as an aggressor, but instead a victim?
So you had we instituted it last year for behavioral health crisis support team. And so when a call comes in with someone who's in the throes of a mental health crisis, they get a response from a licensed clinician and especially trained unarmed public safety officer is in the background while the commission takes the lead. And all of those things will remain in place when we have an armed police department.
Right, I'm aware of this, so if it was students are not really too aware of these directory. If they were to reach out to police, would they be informed to go to that directory instead?
Yeah, so it's not a director per se, it's when that calls for service comes in, it already initiates on its own. And I know lots of names aren't aware, and it hasn't been like a grand rollout yet,
Yeah.
but just making a call initiates the process that Dr. Barnes described.
Just like if you call now and say there's a fire department. Now, so you'll get the appropriate resource for the appropriate process.
I just have one last question. Will the armed police officers and the unarmed police officer will have a different uniform, or there will be different uniforms?
Yes, different uniforms, different badges. And the idea is to make sure that a JHPD officer's badge is distinguishable from anybody's in the state. So I want to make sure that they're completely different.
Okay. Well, I think that is all for our Q&A session. I thank you very much for making time to come here and have a conversation with us. I guess round of applause for
That, well after the JHPD is established, we will continue to invite us back. And I hope that individuals will sign up to participate on the JHPD Accountability Board and the Student Advisory Board for Public Safety.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and your
Before we get a copy of the,
and this we'll send you the recording and the script that we have, the note that we have taken, and we'll also send you in all the necessary information we received from the students, the survey results, and the slideshow as well to your office. Thank you very much.
thank you.
You guys aren't allowed to leave yet, though, because we have a piece of legislation. Secretary. Last piece of legislation.
Okay, so Milton and I have been working on some sweaters that we can give out both during the giveaway that we have planned for the Blue Jays this month and throughout the winter at various tabling events, including lighting of the quads. Okay, so we have both a fall design for the month and a winter design. And we hope to buy a small amount, I think, yeah, eight of the fall design and then 43 of the winter design. And it would cost a total of around $850 for 51 sweaters. And we also try to make something where the SGA is small enough that people will wear it, but it's still there so people know where they got it from.
Any questions? Oh, really? Wait, we'll go to Calvin. Did you?
Do you have the prepared sponsor formula?
I can add.
The one. You had a point of information? What was it? Sure. Just front design.
Yeah, this one.
You just want to do a motion. Just do like a 3-minute motion. All in favor? Any seconds? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Any abstention? 3-1 to Danny.
we theoretically could, it would probably cost substantially more.
Jenny.
Um,
What?
how much you recognize?
Yeah, it's just Jenny.
And just that that's because basically after learning from like what happened to Paul when they didn't have enough t-shirts, I feel scared that like that's true. Yeah.
So,
Just point of information. Okay, which is disorganized and their process of taking them out.
So, point of information, they were not disorganized, they just had a process that did not influence what they intended. Second, you don't want to exalt your budget on having enough teachers, the reality is you can't buy enough
Yeah.
teachers. To make everybody happy, so you should stick within a budget that makes sense. And if you see that there's a demand, you should allocate it to it, but I would not overspend because right now. I literally have 3 boxes of shirts that I just found that I'm gonna give away at Lighting of the Quad that are sitting, they have been sitting over. So you don't want to be in that situation. You spend too much money and then you can't get rid of the shirts because you don't have anywhere to put them.
Yeah, like I said, this is not the only thing
My closet.
to give away.
Jackson.
I like the fall design, but why are you only buying? Like, you just kind of like, Why did you
Because
buy-
by the time that they are purchased, it will be like they'll be delivered at the very, very end of November.
why are we buying it? Wouldn't it make sense to just go with the like, cause like, I think it's personally, like, yeah, but wouldn't it make more sense just to focus on the winter one and figure out like, maybe if we're gonna do something like this, go big on next fall.
I can't argue against that because that's what I thought too, but Milton is the interesting.
I have a quick one.
I'm gonna go to the rest right here.
I have a quick one. On the sizes, how is the sizes determined? Because this doesn't seem like standard college deviation.
So the distribution that I sent to it might just be out of order.
When you're converting all of that, then the balls out with the t-shirt sizes be.
Oh, here. Size varies based on winner's size preference.
Also, so they're going to be all orders are going to be whatever the or
Yes,
so what exactly
that will be advertised.
pretty people second. I really don't know.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, just, I feel like it makes so much more sense to just buy a larger amount of picture ones and then still do it really big away. Cause like, isn't it more expensive to buy multiple design and you kind of
Yes.
also the copper sweater goes down? So like, I don't know why we don't just transition all of the winter and then do a winter giveaway and then they give us the size and then they just get it during school.
More than happy to accept that amendment.
Motion to amend the lottery purpose.
Second,
Yeah, that's out. You're good.
Motion to amend the SGA sweater giveaway being 2223 period X to get rid of the entire fall section and add that budget to the winter section. Can someone change the sizes also, or
Do you wanna?
just get rid of the second row?
Point of order, we should probably go your monitor.
Look, it's like, point of order, he is still in the middle of a motion. Finish your motion.
Motion to amend get rid of the second row of the stadium. And the budget. And then add that budget to the winter design.
Any seconds for that motion? All those in favor of acknowledging and applying G1's motion, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Do you want me to?
Do we need them?
Huh? For the what?
In the plan.
Do we need an amendment to change the sizes?
Yeah.
No. Okay, I don't know how to do.
We might be either giving away or selling like a set of fall, winter, spring, summer designs that people can pick and choose which ones they want. Perhaps. Listen, I have an idea for a sandcastle version of Yeoman.
What's 1925 times 52?
Well,
19.
That was fast.
Oh, wow. Okay, I will now accept any motion. Great motion, any great second. All those in favor of moving into voting procedure, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? All those in favor of passing Elena's bill, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Prospective legislation and announcements from anybody.
And I recently had some with on that, either with like a survey or by actual like by action. We can bring an update on that the executive reports next week. And a similar thing. There's also I was hoping like we could get like weekly updates of the status of website updates as well as any additional safety plans. I know that's in chat here, but I think that should be something that's regularly reported on.
Anybody else?
What time?
Any second? All those in favor of adjourning the 12th Senate meeting, please say aye. Any objections, please say nay.
yeah.